Your ears do not deceive you. You have just entered the Cryptid Creator Corner brought to you by your friends at Comic Book Yeti. So without further ado, let's get on to the interview.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cryptid Creator Corner. I'm Barn O'Neill, your host for our Comics Creator Chat. As we continue my Pride Month feature on the show, now in its third year, I've got a new guest that I'm happy to introduce today. She is the Haloed comics historian, the taste maker of the mascara, the architect of the new Amazons, and it was just announced is returning to Paradise Island for Warriors and a Wee Wonder, telling the story of tiny Princess Diana on DC Go. And certainly not least of all these things is a resident of my now home state of North Carolina. Please welcome the Queen Bee of Blurred, Stephanie Williams, onto the show. It's nice to have you join me today.
Yeah, it's so great to be here. I cannot wait to talk all things comics because, I mean, what better thing to talk about on a Thursday?
Yes, exactly. Or any day for that
Or
matter.
it, I mean, or any day at that for that matter, but especially during the weekday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it looks like you've been out and about meeting people on the con circuit right now, including one muscular peacemaking personality that was featured in your book, Strange and Unsung All-Stars of the DC Multiverse, which I have a copy of right here.
Sweet.
It's a fantastic book. That must have been a true moment for you.
It really was. It was also a bit of an adventure too. So I'll tell a quick story.
Yeah.
So I was at Fan Expo Philly, and I was in the back in the green room, and there was a woman who came back. I've seen her a few times. Her daughter actually had worked my table at
Okay.
NYCC a couple years ago. Really wonderful family. And we were kind of chatting, and I forgot that she was working for Fan Expo now. So I was like, well, it's okay if this is a no, but is there any way that I can meet John Cena? She's like, oh, yeah, of course. So I wasn't expecting that answer. So I was like, oh, okay. So we go over to the guy who handles all the comics creators, and he's like, "Yeah, if you ever check the back of your badge, and you read like the fine print at the bottom, like that's one of the privileges you get as a guest." And I was like, "Oh, I had no idea. I will be abusing this from now on, but thank you for letting me
Nice.
know."
Yeah.
So,
Perks.
yes, exactly. So, after my panel on Saturday, someone came and got me. We went, and he had very big, hulking, scary, like, guys that were handling the signage line, and we get there, and, they're just like, "Hey, like, so what do y'all want? You want this signed?" I was like, "No, I don't want it signed. I actually wrote something for John inside of this, and I wanted to gift it to him because this book essentially would have not happened if there wasn't, like, that much success behind Peacemaker and the show."
Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh, well, we'll give it to him." Like, "No, I wanna give it to him, like, that's the whole purpose." So, they were like, "Well, just come back at 4:15." And if anyone has been at a convention, someone telling you to come back at a later time, the likelihood of whatever that was supposed to be happening, slim to none.
Yep.
Because when you're at these cons, while it is amazing and wonderful, they are energy suckers. So, because if I tell you to come back at a later time, you're playing with fire. Because I more than likely will not be there. So, I'm just like, "Okay." So this other guy, security guard, like for real security guard in a black suit, giving, MIB vibes, was like, "Hey, what's going on?" So I tell him, and then finally John Cena like witnesses all of this, and he was like, "Hey, what's up? What do you have there?" So he was so sweet and so nice, and I was like, I think I called him Mr. Cena. So I was like, "Hey, Mr. Cena, like I wrote this book. It couldn't have happened without Peacemaker," and he was just really sweet and receptive, and it was just such a great experience. He's like, "Do you want a selfie?" I was like, "I absolutely do, because no one's gonna believe that I saw you. Even if I post this photo, no one's gonna know you were there." So I essentially took a photo at John Cena's table.
Nice. That's
Yeah.
amazing. I was a production assistant for WCW WWE back in the Attitude era of things. So John was after my time, but by all accounts, he is the nicest human being. But having been side by side with some of those guys, like I remember how big Triple H was. So what
Yeah.
does a John Cena bodyguard look like? I mean, these guys have to be like the Hulk.
Yeah, essentially, it was like walking into, like, a duplicate of just, like, all these mini Hulks, and it was like, "Oh, so this is what it's like to get to the final boss."
Okay, nice.
Dark Souls, so that's what it felt like. It felt like a Dark Souls battle.
Okay, all right. Well, that's really cool. I was revisiting my own copy the other night, prepping for the interview, and I'm amazed since this dropped just a couple of years ago, how many have resurfaced, proving your next level prognostication skills clearly. So what
Yes.
was the catalyst for wanting to highlight some of DC's lesser known characters for you?
So, actually, the book pitch was brought to me by, my editor, Randall, Lovitz, who is on that, and, he was like, "Hey, well, they'll have some picks for you, but, like, get it together." So I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna find as many weird people as I possibly can." And sure enough, like someone like Golden Glider, which felt so random, Velvet Tiger. I just wanted to like really shine a light on some of these characters that I hope would make a comeback, and they have. So of course we have Creature Commandos. Golden
Yeah.
Glider did show up in the Kite Man show. Who else do we have? Someone else just recently popped up and I'm
Rob
blanking
was
on it.
using 10 Fingers Man for
Yes.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, the prophecy does fulfill itself." Now, if only if I can convince some editors at DC to let me bring back, Justice League of Antarctica, I will be a happy camper.
Okay. So what is it with Justice League Antarctica?
I just think it's just the silliest and goofiest thing. So it's this trio of D level, E level villains. They are unemployed, so they meet at the unemployment office in New York, and they're all kind of like, "Hey, why are we here when we could just be doing crime?" So they leave the unemployment office to go rob a bank, but there's already a bank robbery in process. So they inadvertently end up saving the day. And Max Lord at the time is working out of the Justice League building for whatever reason. Don't know why that is. And he also doesn't like Nort. So he's like, okay, well, you all can be a new team. So he puts them together, makes Nort the leader or whatever, and then ships them off to Antarctica where they literally fight penguins, evil penguins at that. It's just a
Penguins.
really yes, really,
Okay.
like, for real penguins, I don't it's just the silly nostalgicness of it all from, like, the '80s and some of the stories that we would get where they weren't necessarily serious or anything, it's just
Yeah.
literally just goofy, villains trying to, not be heroes, but still ended up being heroes, and then a poor Nort, being in charge of them.
I really like the Clock King. I think he's got a lot of
Yeah.
potential with a silhouette. I'm sure an artist could go crazy with a modern interpretation of him.
Absolutely. I'm even thinking of Tattoo Man, which we've gotten many iterations of. Be nice to see him
Yep.
again. Dog Welder, very, very odd one. Wouldn't would not mind.
Dog Welder.
Yeah, like when I came across that character, I was like, there's no way his name actually is any clue to what he does, and it was. He welds dolls to himself, and he happened to save the world from an asteroid, which is so insane to me, but that's comics.
Yeah, yeah. Or what was the 80s? Is that the 80s? Was that when it was the 80s?
Mhm.
Okay, maybe
No,
that
this
was
was,
just a
like,
lot of
late no, actually, I take that back. This is more mid-90s, late 90s, so
okay.
very extreme on top of that.
The 90s were just weird in some ways, though, in a good way, right? It
Yeah,
brought us
yeah.
Doom Patrol and those iterations and all the Vertigo stuff. So, I mean, it was a time for exploration. We'll leave it there.
It surely was. It surely was. Then you have Beard Hunter, a guy who literally hunts guys because of their beards, which I just thought, what a weird vendetta, but obviously, like, you are committed. Who else? There is also, I'm blanking. Um, wow, okay, never mind. I lost my train of thought, but oh, Captain Triumph. who gets his superpowers because his twin brother dies, and then, like, when the soul of this twin brother, like, merges with him, that's when he gets his powers, like, little fun stuff little fun stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, I would really love to take on a scare tactics, book myself,
Yes.
considering my background in music,
Oh my god,
and, I
yes.
mean, come on, I've got lupus myself, so you have a werewolf, right? So
Mhm.
here's my Canis lupus connection, who plays lead guitar, who's from a clan in Southern Appalachia. Like, I'm from East Tennessee, so DC editorial, like, my DMs are open, hit me up for scare tactics.
Listen, I'll slide into someone's DMs and say, "Hey, I know a guy."
Well, the book is fantastic. So, anyone listening, make sure to pick this up if you haven't, or you can consider getting it for a comics friend or a loved one as a gift. I think that's a great gift idea. Now that my sales pitch is over, you're probably most famous for another lesser known DC character not included in the book, Nubia, who
Mhm.
debuted around the time I was born across 3 issues of Wonder Woman starting in 204. We need not go into when that was to spare my feelings, but her journey has morphed over time, but didn't become especially relevant until recently. So, what's your personal trajectory with her?
For Nubia to have been, my first, like, major comic gig and so many parallels between, her journey and myself, especially because she had been gone for so long. Like, she was a character that was introduced and then just kind of fell to the wayside, which I always thought was such a crime to be introduced as Wonder Woman's twin sister and then to never really see the light of day after that.
Yeah.
So to bring her yeah, so, like, to bring her out, so the way editorial had it was that she had been Champion of Doom's Doorway to kinda explain away, why she had been missing the entire time, and for her to go from that to being thrust into the spotlight essentially as Queen of Themyscira, that is a huge shift to go from, like, your basement level job to, like, being in the penthouse, essentially overnight, so much, and I felt the same way to go from someone who people mainly knew online from, my comic hot takes, memes, and things like that, to, like, writing this character where it's gonna be a little bit more serious than what people were used to seeing from my voice. Um, it was a huge undertaking, but it was one I was ready for the challenge in the same way that Nubia was ready to take over as queen. So a lot of cathartic writing happened during this, and I'm just so happy that from all the work that we put into this character, she has not gone back onto the shelf. We've started to see different iterations of her, like in kids' books, a video game recently with the
Okay.
DC, yeah, it was a multiversal game. She was more than a skin brief. Yeah, I had my son plays the game. He was like, "Oh, mom, Newbie is here," and I was like, "Oh, that
Oh,
is
that's
really
cool.
cool, right?"
Nice.
Um, for her to get, I think Burger King at one time, like she was part of the Happy Meal situation, which was really cool. So
Yeah.
once your character is being used for capitalistic purposes, you know that they
You've made it.
you've made it. So that in itself has been great.
Well, I was thinking about some of the unique challenges that are associated with developing Nubia as a prominent Black superhero. So, how did you want to use the mascara to help create a lived in experience for her? Because she didn't have a lot of canon as
No.
opposed to somebody like John Stewart or Storm.
So DC kind of set this up, or I don't, it wasn't knowingly on their part, but it just so happened to work out when they asked us to change our origin story. So in doing so, I just remember like really loving the concept of the cavern of souls that George Perez had introduced.
Okay.
And Jordy Belair was already like reworking in the Well of Souls in her Young Diana run. So I was like, oh, okay, well, it's already here. So we'll have Nubia come through the Well of Souls. That way, she's not just some woman who washed up on shore, but she was reborn in Amazon. And also, her coming through the well was right around the same time Diana was born, so that later down the line, we could perhaps, tie those two together, which I am currently doing right now in Warriors of the We Wonder. So plans were made. So I thought that would be a really great way to kind of have her be very much a part of the Amazons. And then we could really dig into making her relatable again by having her go and have this huge promotion. And how would people react to that? How would the Amazons react to that? Some of them you saw throughout the series were fully supportive. Others were questioned it. But I thought that that was important to show that even though this is called Paradise Island, it does not mean that it is just rainbows and buttercups the entire
Right.
time. That's not the case. So reading Madeline Miller's Cersei was a huge help. Just because
Okay.
in that book, women are the protagonists, antagonists, and everything in between. And because I knew the story was going to take place solely on Themyscira, it was important to not only flesh out Nubia, but also just some of the other Amazons, just their way of life to kind of get into that. Because I figured if you we're going to care about her and her being queen, then you also need to care about the women that she was essentially in charge of. So that was the other idea behind introducing new Amazons. So one, they can just kind of act as like this voyeuristic thing for readers. And then also kind of give an idea of what Nubia might have felt when she had first came out the well herself. And you're kind of getting a little bit of I don't know, like a little bit of her backstory through them, until we could actually, for real, flesh out her backstory in the second series.
Is it easier or harder when you have a character that you have to mold this much around?
Oh, that is of course, harder. Just because, especially because she was essentially kind of like a legacy character, but not really. So
Right.
it was a little tricky. So Nubia was, as the way that I've explained it, was if I think of her character as a sandbox, like the sandbox itself was built, but like there was just no sand there. So we had to like bring the sand there and make it what it was. Because also, even though she didn't have a lot of backstory, she was still a character that a lot of people had an affinity for,
Yeah.
which means that you're like competing with, folks' head canons and, all of these things. So how do you take that into account? And you really can't, like, you just can't compete with other folks' imaginations. But how do you present a character that most people know her because of Wonder Woman, because of Diana, and I don't know, make her someone that she's able to stand on herself by herself. So when you think of Nubia, you are hopefully essentially just thinking of Nubia and not giving her value, based on her proximity to Diana. So it wasn't a thing of one is better than the other, because
Right.
no, they're both women who have come from these amazing people. So like let's focus on at its core what it means to be an Amazon and then kind of build on top of that. That was kind of the approach there, which made it a little bit more easier once that was the direction I knew I wanted to take.
Okay. Well, historically speaking, Themyscira is seen as feminism
Mhm.
territory, white feminism
Mhm.
territory historically. Nubia is DC's first black superheroine, and she's queer herself and the queen of a trans inclusive kingdom.
Mhm.
Topography is important in the DC universe more than even at Marvel because the cities are characters in and of themselves.
Yes.
Things changing in those locales are more gender binary, thinking of Gotham or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Could you could you tell that same story outside of the mascara?
Um, I believe so. But
Okay.
I don't think the impact would be the same. So the idea, essentially because you're right, and that was kind of like my contention sometimes with just the thought of, DC's Amazons, Wonder Woman, and Themyscira, because for a while it was very homogenous and it
Yeah.
was really tied to just different visuals when it came to white feminism. And I figure if this black woman, even though race is not seen in the or treated the same way on Themyscira as it is out in the rest of the world. Um, visually that is still there, and for the readers. So I don't like I just felt like that if we were gonna tell this story in a way that hopefully was gonna be relatable to folks and then also something that they would remember, then Themyscira itself also needed to kind of be updated. And I felt like through the years it had been. Again, going back to George Perez's run, like that is the first time I remember opening up a Wonder Woman book and they're on Themyscira and it not being so homogenous. Like I saw
Yeah.
different skin tones. So I said, okay, so let's kick that up a notch. And to me, that would mean like, so who else would be on this island? If this is an island where women who have been harmed in man's world would go to, what does that look like? And we had to broaden that up. Because if we don't, then we're saying that certain women, when they're harmed, don't deserve a second chance at life, don't deserve to be reborn on on this island, and that's not fair. Like that's not the type of Themyscira that I would think even Hippolyta would want to rule, especially Nubia. So it was very important to take a look at that. And the introduction of Bia really was one, taking that into account, but also I wanted it to be so that whoever came after me, and they happen to like want to write a story within Themyscira or with the Amazons, and if they did want to introduce a trans Amazon, they absolutely could because we said in like a very divine way that this woman came through the Well of Souls in the discussion. And that is essentially it. Because canon is important. Or canon can be important. So if I was able to put that canonically there, then hopefully that made life a lot easier for anyone else who decided to write stories that were on that side of the DC universe.
Well, to be clear, we want you to be that person to write
Yes,
those
I would love
stories.
to. Yes, I would love to, and thankfully, I'm getting a chance to do a little bit more of that, with Warriors of We Wonder because slice of life allows you to really get into the nitty-gritty of day-to-day life, and, it's given me a chance to show these women in a way that we have not really seen, because we know
Okay.
them as warriors. We got to kind of get to see them at rest a little bit in Nubia and the Amazons, but with Warriors in the We Wonder, like you've got this island full of women trying to handle baby Diana, who is not is not a gentle baby. She's a cute and wonderful baby, but she is an active child.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like she's maybe up to a bit of trouble in this.
Oh, absolutely. We have some surprises for a particular Wonder Woman villain who does show up on the island. And let's just say that it was heavily inspired by what Kelly Thompson is doing right now. An absolute Wonder Woman. I've like absolutely loved everything she's been doing with that. And I wanted to find a way to kind of infuse some of that into Warriors of a We Wonder. And I don't want to give anything away because there's like a lot of surprises that are going to come. But if you are a fan of that series, then you will absolutely be a fan of this.
So here to there, like,
Mhm.
I'm not the only one excited about this. I bounced over to Reddit to kind of gauge how people are responding, and honestly, it cracked me up because it started with "Please be gay, please be gay, please be gay,"
Oh, it is.
and it feels very much in your wheelhouse as a slice of life superhero
Mhm.
story, and also you pull from your experience as a mom.
Yeah.
So and I'm certain you had loads of ideas to develop about the Amazons now that you've created it and all their culture. So how did we end up from Nubia to more of a kid's story?
So, it's funny. Last year, I want to say like around July, I had sent a code pitch to my editor that I work with on Nubia, Brittany, and I was like, "Hey, like, I'm just sending this to you because like I got to get it off my chest." So it was originally, I had the idea of Tales of the Amazon. So that actually is a trade paperback that you could pick up. But it's just like this assortment of stories. So I think Nubia's coronation special is in that. A couple of Wonder Girl, Yara Flor stories, Wonder Woman, and also Young Diana. I really like that. Kind of introducing people to a little buffet of Amazon. So I want to do something similar, but uh to focus on a story with Philippus, like a one shot where we're just getting the focus on her and like why she is the way that she is, Hippolyta and Antiope, like what were those earlier years on the island? Artemis, of course, Nubia. I think her story, the way that I pitched it originally, was gonna like follow her in her early days as
Okay.
Guardian of Doom's Doorway, and then Bia, of course, I was gonna do something completely new with her. So my editor, she loved it, but did not because it was I was like, of course there'll be action because there has to be, but for me, this would be a little bit more slice of life leaning, a little bit more of the quieter moments because that is when I feel like we get some of the best character development. I am a fan of Silver and Bronze Age comics, so unfortunately that's how I feel. So, at the time, I had no idea that DC Go was a thing that was gonna exist. So she was like, I think there is a platform that this will work best on." So we met at Chicago Fan Expo, talked about it a little bit more, and she put me in contact with Sabrina Fuchs, who is my editor on Warriors of We Wonder. And we just started like workshopping some things because with the DC Go titles, there needs to be a catch to them essentially. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, well, say less. I can absolutely give you that and then hopefully still be able to do what it is that I originally wanted to. So I knew that it would hopefully get a easier green light would happen if Diana was there, but because Diana is just such this big character, I was like, it can't be grown Diana. Like let's bring it back and let's do toddler Diana. And like these women trying to figure out how to raise a kid, but also if she's younger, then we get to see the Amazons a little bit younger, even though like they're immortal. So we can get into like their dating customs, holidays, how choosing the next champion works, and just the day-to-day life on Themyscira. So once I reworked the pitch, and it ended up being an instant yes, because I'm like, you know what? Think Babysitters Club, but
Okay.
with the Amazons. So
Nice.
even though like there's a Diana's there as a kid, I would say this is really more all ages than it is just strictly a kid thing. Like the way that I thought about it is if we were to ever get a Wonder Woman animated show, this could be it. Like that's the way that I kind of pitched it and it happened to work out.
I mean, the artwork looks so good. That's
So perfect.
Jane Pika and Emily
Yes.
Pearson you're working with? Okay.
Yes. They have been phenomenal. The moment that I got, like Jane's roughs, like her sketches and Emily's, I was like, well, I don't know if the roughs are in the room because these look amazing. But just so good and the comedy of it all, like the episodes both start and end on Olympus because the idea here was to have the guys watching the Amazons as though they were watching a reality TV show. So
Okay.
we get some of the gods humor there. And then of course there's some meddling going on because Athena is one of our gods, so why not?
Mhm.
But it's just really a fun time. I wanted it to be a read that no matter what, if you're having a good day, a bad day, whatever, if you read Warriors of We Wonder, like you walk away feeling like, I don't know, like better than you did before you began reading it. Like that was the whole thing. And I just really love how gay it's been too.
Yep.
'Cause I mean, duh, but also it's just little small moments. There's even an episode that is focused on Hippolyta and Philippus going celebrating their anniversary, which is really cute.
Yeah. Yeah, I will submit that this project is among some other great company too. I'll pat my own fortune on the back by saying I'm covering 3 of the 6 of those DC Go
Yes.
releases this month for Pride Month. Totally by happenstance, I'm sure, but I'll say it's due to my own impeccable talent recognizing abilities. I rolled a 20 because we've got Steve Orlando talking about magical mysteries of Shazam and Josh
Yes.
Trujillo talking about the Aquaman ho ho hold onto your hook, which
Yes.
that's a great pirate line
I
there.
mean,
So
I said One Piece meets Aquaman, amazing.
yeah, yeah, it looks fantastic. So dropping this stuff in the midst of the culture wars of
Mhm.
of 2025. It's this weird dichotomy that we have going on in the country because on one hand, we're erasing the history of the queer struggle and that of people of color, and on the other hand, is quite clearly an appetite for queer stories and queer content that rich men who own majority stakes in media companies have to respond to.
Mhm.
Ideology is one thing, cash is still king, it always will be. Is that weight of representation for you as a writer something you ever struggle with, like, given the context of everything that's going on?
To be honest, no, right? And I
Okay.
don't mean that in a dismissive way. I just know that no matter what story I want to tell, because of who I am and how I present, it is gonna be a problem, to someone. So for that reason, I those things don't really cross my mind because I want to tell the stories that I want to tell,
Yeah,
and you can either support it or you don't, and again, not to be flippant about it, but it's just, no, because either way, like, I have an announcement that'll be happening, next month for a book that I'm very excited for too, with IDW, and I already know that, it is something
trouble.
that yeah, yeah, which it shouldn't be because it's, like, such a fun project. Wrestling, is definitely a part of this project, and, yeah, like, I already know that there might be I hope there isn't, but I can see some folks not being too happy about, me writing it and thinking that it's a DEI thing, and I'm like, "No, it's actually was a huge fan of the show when I was younger,
Okay.
so this actually just happened to align." So, you know, shitty people are going to unfortunately continue to exist, and I refuse to let them dictate, how I live my life because,
Sure.
yeah, like, no, like, go ruin someone else go ruin your own day. And essentially that's what they end up doing because, they limit themselves, and I just don't see how life is worth living, when you're just being so atrocious and just,
Yeah.
getting joy out of making other people's lives miserable. Like, I don't know if they believe in karma or not, but it always comes back in some way.
Yeah, I don't understand people who wallow in toxicity. It just doesn't make
Yeah.
sense to me at
No.
all. But,
Mm-mm. It
uh,
ages you.
on that,
And
you're talking about IDW and you've got DC, so how are the different is there a difference between working at the big 2 and sort of what you can get away with and working in indie comics in terms of queer representation in 2025?
um, yeah, I think that there is a bit of a difference. I haven't like I've been fortunate enough to not really face any like no you can't do that for any of the queer stories that are written at the big 2. Same thing at IDW and some of the smaller companies. Like I can't speak to that because I haven't really gotten too much pushback. Even the creator-owned stuff that I'm working on right now with Ignition Press and Mad Cave, same thing. No, I not to say that it doesn't happen. I'm pretty sure that it does, but I've been fortunate enough that I haven't been told like, "Oh no, you can't do that." 'Cause I try to do my best, when I'm writing these stories to make it very hard, if possible, for editorial or for higher ups to say no because no, like, it's part of the story and it makes sense, and you know that it makes
Sure.
sense, so,
Yeah.
please allow me to keep this. So far, and I'll knock on this not wood desk that continues, but so far so good.
Okay. Are there any barriers that are obvious to you? What are the barriers? I've always gotten into this, and I'm always curious about what exactly is the glass ceiling, and are we there yet? In quotes, right? Because obviously we're not. But it feels like, especially in the last couple of years, we've gotten a lot of tremendous momentum writing and representing queer characters across the board in
Yeah.
comics. So, what do the barriers feel like to you for the next step?
Um I think that they're going to get, harder, like, more difficult, but I think because of the momentum that we have, and if we're able to keep that, even with the next barrier that comes, we'll be able to push through. I feel like the glass ceiling will only begin to exist if we stop trying.
Okay.
Because you can only I mean, someone could tell you no oh so many times. You just pivot and then you either go somewhere else to someone who wants a story, or find like, as life will find a way. Stories will find a way to
Sure.
exist. We have so many amazing indie artists who are doing whatever the hell they want in the best way, and they have major success because of that. And because cash is king and these bigger companies see that, even if they are wholly against what is going on, they're not against those bottom lines.
Yep.
And does that make it good? Maybe not. There's some, some questionable things there, but I'm a type of person where I'm just like, well, if you're gonna say yes to this thing, then I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And if you're gonna pay me to do the thing, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And how you personally feel about it, that is your business. But I know that the way that this is gonna go out and be received in the world is in a way that is much needed. So I don't know, it's tricky, Byron. It is like it's tricky,
Yeah.
because it's one of those things where you have to pick your battles, at least that's what
Yeah.
I've been learning, because the other thing too is that, you know, not all queer stories are gonna look the same. So
Yeah.
maybe that's a barrier right there that sometimes companies are looking for a certain type of queer story that sometimes feels very inauthentic because it's just not authentic at all. And that's when you as a creator have to maybe put your foot down and say, no, this isn't really how this would go. And if you guys want me to tell this story, you brought me in to do this thing, then you need to allow me to do it or I walk.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that I really was impressed with, and I felt with Nubia, the characters felt so lived in. It felt so real and
Mhm.
vibrant and established because a lot of times, well, I mean, that's a generalization on my part, but when you have a queer character, I turn the clock back, 4 or 5 years, and we were seeing a lot of hand raising
Mhm.
with, "Here, let's acknowledge that this is a queer character, and we've got that in there," and it's almost like, "Yay, we've gotten it in there,"
Yeah.
and I think we've turned and pushed that forward, so now it just feels very natural, and
Yes.
that's what I love about Nubia. I was doing a women in comics feature back in March. Is something I'm gonna continue to do, and looking at how artists and writers are redefining the looks of our heroes and stories, from hair to fashion to skin tones, body types, eschewing that traditional cis male focused lens that we've all been boxed into for so long. So getting the opportunity to package these women and femme presenting people from the visual standpoint, how did you want to accentuate strong femme queer and get that balance right, so it felt lived in?
Yeah, and I mean, not to make it sound so simple, but really honestly at its core treating them like people, right? And
Okay.
then like just as regular people and then layering on top of that through personal experiences of friends and folks that I spoke to, but really just at the core and at the base, just treating them as regular people, and then adding on the other stuff as accessory. Well, I don't even want to say accessory because that sounds terrible, but
Like a pocketbook?
yeah, yeah, like no, because we're not wearing our identities like that, but
Right.
or actually, maybe because I didn't treat it like that, I should say, that it doesn't come off that way, and it's just very intrinsically it's just them. In the same way that I would, uh all the Black characters that I've ever written, like, I don't need to remind you that they're Black because you can physically see that they're Black. So I don't I don't have to make that the focus of the story in a way that just feels like, "Hey, reminder," like
Right.
Nubia's not like, I don't need to do that. And I think when you don't do that, or at least in my experience, then you still get this character that is very representative of who they're supposed to be, but at the same time, folks who maybe wouldn't have been so receptive are like, "Oh, hey, oh, they're just like me." Well, yes. So is the very real person who
Yes,
you are
yes.
voting against and all of these things. They're just like you. They're just they're human just like you. So treating the characters same way. They're not gonna go on a tangent, but this is related. Last year I was at Heroes Con, and I did a panel with Jean Ha and Colleen Duran. It was a Wonder Woman panel, and I got to talk about Nubia and just like my approach. And the very next day, the guy who was at the panel came to my table, and he's just like, "Yeah, I just had to come over here and want to buy some books because, I hate to admit this, but when I first heard about Nubia and this book coming out, like I just kind of dismissed it because I thought that it was, another I don't know, like just we're making this character black and we're just doing it just because a cash grab,
Yeah,
and so on. But he was like, when I actually heard you talk about the character and like your process and all these other things, I realized I was completely wrong. And so he apologized for that and brought a bunch of books, and we talked some more. But he was like, "I'm just thank you for allowing me helping me see the light of day." By simply just talking about your creative process and about this character. And I couldn't do anything but just say, "You're welcome, and also thank you for coming back and realizing that you were wrong and wanting to actually get involved and read more about this character and also support me in my work." So like that was
yeah,
a uncomfortable conversation, but like those conversations need to happen. And I think it was in that moment where I was just reminded me and also reaffirmed to me that if you if you just do the thing, like if you just treat and do this thing, I don't know, like if you're not trying to like check off any boxes and you're literally just trying to tell a story where your characters just so happen to be all of these other things, people are going to see that. And it's hopefully through your writing, you'll also bring them to the light and seeing that whatever preconceived notions that they had were wrong. Because if folks are not around, people in different ways of life, then they don't know. It doesn't excuse that because it's up to you to figure that out. But like sometimes it really is folks just being wrong because of just these ill assumptions that they have. But hopefully there are more people out in the world that were like this man who could realize that and not let ego get in the way and, now finally have a great time reading Nubia in the Amazons.
yeah, that's awesome that he came back, especially that he spent money. I mean, like,
Yes, he
admitting you're
bought
wrong,
damn
then
near
spending
everything on my
money.
table. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So that can you only work through some of that stuff? We hear about, and have all experienced online toxicity and just,
Okay.
how bad it gets. So can you only do that in a face-to-face interaction, you know?
Sometimes it feels that way, because online allows people to not on they are able to mask in a way that they can't in real life.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because when you're in front of someone, hopefully you're looking them in the eye, I feel like that veil of comfort, is no longer really there, and you really have to connect with the human in a way that you can't online. It's a little bit different. This is another reason why I really like going to conventions because um, the folks who are there want to be there. And the folks that come to your table want to come to your table. And not that it's just because, I want to be praised or anything like that, but it's nice to have a genuine connection with someone who, has read what you have done, appreciates your work and, can just see like what you're literally out here trying online. Because sometimes it could become an echo chamber and all of these things. I don't know, like, it just I feel like you could possibly change someone's mind online, but I don't know, like, something about in-person, real life, connections to me, I don't know, they hit a lot they hit in a way that online cannot.
Yeah, and, I think, some of it is as simple as just being able to look somebody in the eye. Because when you
Yeah,
have to do that, when you have to make that connection with them, it's just different, you know?
yeah.
Do you have any advice for people for avoiding the noise and that toxicity that is online for comics professionals out there? We have a lot to actually listen to the show, so do you have any advice for people who are just getting hit?
Yeah, it's tough and it sucks. Some of it is avoidable, others is not. I guess I would like to remind you that, like, you are the person that was hired to tell this story. So trust in that. And the fact that you are the storyteller, the creator, whatever, like, you have to have faith in that. Like, people are gonna have their opinions, and that's just that. But their opinions, I don't know, like, they have a time limit on it, but your work does not. Like, your work is always going to be on a shelf somewhere or digitally available somewhere. So I don't know, like, stand firm in that. Don't go looking for stuff that when you don't need to. Like, 'cause sometimes we find trouble when we shouldn't. I know we can get curious sometime and want to know how people are feeling about the things that we're doing, but just know that as much as you might find the good stuff, you are going to find the bad stuff, and you have to
Yeah.
ask yourself, is it worth I don't know, like, is it worth my time and energy? Is it worth seeing people praise me and then also people bash me at the same time? And oftentimes it's not. And even if it's not directly to your works, it is if you are anyone, not even just a creator, taking time offline is just so important. Because I know for me personally, especially, like, when I'm in deadlines or I'm just trying to really get into a creative mindset, I try my best to stay off of social media or go long periods of not being on. There's just a difference.
Yeah.
Not being bombarded with 1,000 strangers' opinions, world events, all of these things. I'm not saying, like, completely ignore what's going on, but it gets a little hard to create when you've got more than just, the delusional voices in your head that we as creators have to go with the other stuff. So, take those breaks. I know, like, we've been trained that, we have to be online and we have to be, available and all these things to get more work and stuff, but you don't. In fact, you can find work on LinkedIn. Just recently shared that with folks and they were very surprised by that. But if you're a comic creator, set that LinkedIn account up. You would be very surprised at who's on there and who will reach out to you because they are also trying to avoid all of the noise from these different sites. LinkedIn is toxic in its own way, but it's a type of toxic where, oh yes, it's a type of toxic where you can kind of like
Now
you
I'm
can shut that
intrigued.
out. Yeah, you gotta if you don't have a LinkedIn account, great one just to be on there. It's corporate toxic, which I
Okay.
can handle and I find, entertaining at times because it's always the same stuff.
Disconnect. That's the
Yes.
best advice we can give anybody.
Yeah, you got to.
I always check in the Comic Book Yeti Discord if people have questions for upcoming guests. So Luis asked, who else in the big two that you'd like to write? And I know he won't care if I take this a step further
Uh-huh.
because I listened to your chat with Bitches in Comics, which is a great show, by the way.
Mhm.
Check them out. I'll put a link in the show notes. Fantastic. But Old Lady Storm in the vein of Old Man Logan. And tell me more, because I have this version of a snarky Eartha Kitt firing off
Yes.
"Santa baby motherfucker" in my head, firing off
Yes.
lightning bolts like an irritated goddess. I love her. She will always be Catwoman to me.
Yes.
Probably not your vision, but I'm delighted to be corrected here.
I mean, that's kinda close.
Okay.
So very, Eartha Kitt, Cicely Tyson-esque, Debbie Morgan, who I don't know why I was getting my hair done. I was watching, Beauty in Black, a Tyler Perry production on Netflix. I don't watch it. Maybe you should, but it's insane. But
Okay.
I just would like to put a very crotchety, irritated Storm for us to see her in a way where we haven't, like, less regal and not in like a, street urchin way, which she was raised as, but, just yeah, like, because I see so many parallels between Storm and Wolverine, even, in their current iterations, and I just think an Old Man Logan type story would best fit her, so someone who is just tired and doesn't wanna show up, and doesn't wanna wear the mask in the way that she has, and is just really fed up, and, she comes out and she's, I don't know, kind of, like, really leaning into the whole Morlock thing too. Um,
Okay.
so I if they ever let me, it's a 12-issue maxi series that I
Okay,
have that I
12. You
would
need
love
12.
to
That's awesome.
12, yeah, because I would even like to get into some of her stuff that was introduced in that short Magic run from the '80s, so it was a Magic limited series, 4 issues, and, Bosco or Basco, whatever his name is, the guy who Storm learned magic from, or he helped her, kind of, elevate her magical abilities, and then it goes terrible because he's a terrible person. So, kinda to get into that a little bit, yeah, like, I just wanna see Storm in whatever this broken world looks like, and her just kinda being like, "Yeah, sure, possibly I could fix this, but I don't feel like it and I don't want to." And then hopefully someone coming through and convincing her to maybe do something about it.
I'm down. That sounds
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, Mad Max Fury Road. Like, let me let me take, else who I kinda see her as? Tina Turner's character, in Mad Max 3.
Okay.
And, what is her name? Wow, Welcome to the Thunderdome. I'm forgetting her name, the character's name, but I kinda see her in
It's
that
been a
way.
while. I've
Yeah,
slept since then.
I know.
You could say Tina Turner, you could say Mel Gibson, and I'd have a landing
Ye
point, but aside from that,
Yeah,
probably not.
no, I'm blanking on her character, the character's name, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna remember it after a fact and gonna be very mad, but anyway.
Oh, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
Well, what else you got cooking? We Wonder is coming out in July, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so Warriors and We Wonder, July 15th to be exact. The thing for IDW will be announced next month, and I'll be doing some signings for it at SDCC. They might even have a whole activation for that. Then I have a Cosmic Horror that I've been working on with, Ignition Press. You'll actually get to read 12 pages of that, at SDCC. So they just had a Kickstarter for Jeremy Hunn's, cold case or cold open for, the murder podcast book that he's putting out. So it'll
Yeah,
be
yeah.
something along the similar lines, and I'm very excited for that because, 1, I said I would never write anything past the 1980s or set past the 1980s. I lied. The story is set in 1905. My character is a Black woman. She goes back to Savannah, Georgia. But think, I don't know, like if Ryan Coogler had directed Annihilation, like this is the way that I would kind of sell this. And if you enjoy Sinners, because I started writing this well before Sinners came out or we even knew what Sinners was really gonna be. So it's really nice to kind of see that there is some synergy there.
Okay.
So that makes me very excited and happy. And then the project that I have with Mad Cave Studios that will be announced, I think, next month too, and that is a sci-fi adventure.
Okay.
And starring it's a time traveling thing. That was also something I said I would never do, and then I lied and I did it. So, that story was pretty much influenced by me going to conventions. My son is really big in like retro video games, which for him, like that's Nintendo 64, Game Boy, which makes
Oh
me
my
feel
god.
terrible.
I'm so old. Okay.
Yeah. So, when I'm at these conventions, I'm often, like, searching for these things for him and, kinda turn into, like, Laura Croft in a way, but for, like, retro video games and toys. So, I thought, like, well, if Time Cop kinda merged with this whole thing, how would this look? So that is that story for Mad Cave Studios. It's been really fun writing both of these. But man, the
Yeah.
thing with IDW, I have an email open right now with art, and I just really cannot wait for you all to see this because it's such a fun thing. So if you are a fan of 90s cartoons and wrestling, you're going to have a great time.
Okay. I'm here for that. So
Yeah.
you've got sci-fi and you've got cosmic horror too
Yeah.
coming. You're really
It's
broadening
all
your
of
horizons. I'm happy to hear this.
Thank you. Yeah. Cause I just really love storytelling. And as I've been telling people lately that I don't care what the genre is. If the story calls for it, then I'm gonna figure it out. I think I spent all of last year like really digging into the whole cosmic horror thing. I'm obsessed with Jeff Vandermeer and his writing, and a lot of times it kind of leans into that. So yeah, I'm finally getting a chance to like really spread my wings, and it's been chaotic writing so many things in so many different genres, but also at the same time, weirdly enough, like it's helped. Yeah, like it just I don't know how to explain it, but it's helped. Like I have a mood board and it looks insane, but sometimes the cosmic horror stuff makes me think of, oh, well, this might be a really great idea for sci-fi. And then I go down like this rabbit hole, and next thing I know, I'm looking at, wrestling videos. So
Okay.
it's been a fun time.
So are you finding as you're doing that that your voice is changing?
Yes, but in ways that fit the story, which I think
Okay.
for me, I don't know, like, I felt like I've really turned a corner as a writer, creator this year, and I can
Okay.
see that through my work. The editors that I've been working with, have also seen that, which has just been, again, like, really reaffirming to me, like, yeah, like, you've been learning, like, from my whole thing from the first time I actually just wrote, the first comic for Parenthood Activate, which was my webcomic, is that, like, I want to hopefully get progressively better as I keep going. So,
Yeah.
this year, I'm considering it my senior year because it's my 4th year of working full-time in comics, and I don't know, like, I just feel just way more confident as a storyteller, and I can just see the difference. Like, it doesn't take me, I'm not, like, hung up on silly stuff like dialogue, which isn't silly, but it used to take me a while to kinda, like, work through dialogue. I'm okay with the first draft looking horrendous, even though I've been hearing back from my editors, they're not nearly as bad as I think that they are. And I've been doing a better job at self-editing, to the point where, my editor, Jamie Rich, at Ignition Press was like, "Hey, if you keep this up, I won't have a job." I'm like, "You will have a job, Jamie, because I can only edit myself this way because of the notes that you've given me in previous work. So just know that, I'm applying and I'm trying to, again, like, just get better."
So you're describing yourself as a senior. So your senior class ring, which Infinity Stone's going in it?
Oh, man. Ooh, I think it's gonna be, the Reality Stone, so I can just warp some things, seems like a very because also I
Sounds
kinda
good.
feel like, yeah, like, and no, and kinda actually been doing that in real life because I'm going from comic stories that are just so different from one another. I am hopping in between realities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're busy, busy, busy writing. Have you gotten around to launching the newsletter yet?
Yes. So I
Okay, great.
launched it, yes, I launched it back in February. The newest newsletter that I just put out was last week on my birthday. So I was at MomoCon, which was really fun, and was able to reflect, and I was like, "Oh, so this is why you should have a newsletter." It's like your own personal journal in a way, but I like it. It's kept me on task, and just another deadline, but it's a deadline that, is a personal one because I get to work through, like, let folks know what I got going on and also give, like, some deeper insight into just my creative process and all the silly stuff that I'm doing, like, watching Beauty in Black on Netflix, which, again, I don't recommend, but I do kind of recommend because it's just it's
It sounds like enough
insane.
of a train wreck based
Oh,
upon where you're trying not to recommend it that it's worth
yeah,
it.
it's
So
oh,
you're
it is
hooking me whether you want to
so
or not.
I'm so sorry, but yes, if you watch it and you're like, "What the hell?" I'm so sorry, but also, I just wow. It makes the Boondocks episode that was focused on Tyler Perry even more pronounced, I'll put it that way. Yeah,
Okay.
also the
Okay.
Atlanta episode too. So, if you enjoyed the Boondocks talking about Tyler Perry and then also Atlanta, then please watch Beauty in Black.
Okay. I'm in. I'll check it out. I'll let you know how it goes. So where can people go to sign up for your newsletter?
You can go to Press Start the Story at Beehive. I think just Google that or also just go to, my Instagram page. There is, a link in my bio that'll take you to, like, all my stuff. Just press that. I have the sign up there. But yeah, Beehive was the choice because unfortunately Substack is
Yeah.
run by a not great person.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We
Yeah.
had to do a whole porting process and yeah,
Yeah.
so good on you for doing that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, before I let you go, we always do a shout out to round things out because I like to end on a positive note.
Yeah.
So this can be someone who did you a solid or something that inspired you recently that you're just grateful for. And I'll go first to give you a second to think.
Yeah.
Mine this time, last night, I actually started watching this documentary about the octopus. And it goes through all these different experts may not be the exact way to put it, but people who are very, very into octopus. So you have people who are doing research. You have Tracy Morgan who shows up, who just loves, I guess, sea creatures. I had no idea, but he has, I think, one of the biggest independently owned aquariums on the planet in his house.
Okay.
Who knew? So, but I've loved octopuses, but this is for people who really, really love octopuses, clearly more than I do. Because, well, okay, I do have an octopus tattoo on my back, so maybe I am that person. Anyway, it's really cool, and I highly recommend it. What you got?
Okay, I'm actually gonna plug, a book by my late friend Erin Reese. It's called Bitchcraft. It will be out June 18th from Mad Cave Studios. If you are looking for something that is different and so celebratory of Black queerness and friendship, witchery, mysticism, all of these things, pick up Bitchcraft. It was pure labor of love by my best friend, and I'm just so happy that it's gonna be out in the world, and it could not release at a more, better time, and also it feels on brand to kinda, highlight that book for this particular podcast, so check out Bitchcraft, June 18th. Get those pre-orders in because I think the FOC is actually coming up, this Monday, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, so yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I know there was an advanced release that's in the people have their to-read stack. I have a to-read
Sure.
email stack of advanced solicits to go through. So I've been looking forward to that. It looks
Yeah.
fantastic. So yeah, definitely check that out. Well, Stephanie, thanks for hanging out with me on the show today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great, thank you, and anytime you want me back, just let me know.
I will. I will. Well, believe me, I'll reach out because you've got some cool stuff coming up. So we'll do it again. Well, this is Byron O'Neill on behalf of all of us at Comic Book Yeti. Thanks for tuning in and happy Pride, everyone. See you next time.
Alright, bye.